Hey guys, this is Ash and you're watching WriterGAsh. Today I'm going to be doing a book talk on Shadow and Bone, so without further ado, let's get on to the book. I will start off by kind of describing the world because I really struggled with visualizing it when I first started reading it. So there are these Grisha, which are magical creatures in this universe, and they're orders of Grisha, so individuals with different types of magic. Some of them are summoners who can use the nature to summon things, like wind summoners, tide summoners. So wind summoners are squallers, tide, and then inferni who summon fire. There is the darkling who summons darkness, and then there is the main event of this book, the sun summoner, who summons literal sunlight. The reason I'm talking about it before we get in is because it's not really a spoiler, it's just a description. And then there are the heartrenders and I can't say the word, but they're called something, but they're the heartrenders who control heartbeat, internal functioning of people. They help calm people and stuff like that. There are the healers, and then there are the tailors. So with one thing I personally am confused about in this universe, and I would love for one of you to explain to me. So in the books, the summoners are very separated, with their powers. A sun summoner cannot summon darkness, cannot summon fire or wind or whatever. They can't. But the heartrenders can heal. And they can tailor. They're not great at it, but they can. And Jenya, who is a tailor, can do what a heartrender does. So is that how it is? The corporal, I can't say the word corporalaki. I'm probably saying it all absolutely wrong. I haven't written nowhere. But can they do all three of the things under them? Just have differing expertise? If someone can help me out with that, I would appreciate it. Finally, they have the materialarchy. Something. Finally, they have the inventors and stuff. So they have the people, Durasts, who deal with more metals, and then they also have the alchemy, who deal with chemicals. And they're the inventors in a way. Anyway, and then some people are Grisha, and they are all Grisha. And then aside from Grisha, they have the non-Grisha, because I refuse to say it out loud, because I don't want to butcher the word. In my head, I'll say it, but I refuse to say it out loud. Anyway, so Alina Starkov finds out she's a sun summoner in the beginning of the book, and this is her journey, figuring it all out. So from here onwards, I will go into spoilers. So the book starts off with a prologue, and it talks about how Alina and Mal, who are two children in this orphanage, are having their Grisha exam. And it gives us a look into Alina and Mal's friendship, and that really is sweet. And I think this point, it's the only time I look at their relationship and think, oh, they're cute. Because every other time, Mal has just destroyed that for me. I know there are people still who ship Mal in the books. With Alina, I just can't. Personally, after reading the entire series, I ship her with no one. I am okay with whatever Leigh Bardugo did, but I ship her with no one because I feel like the best way for her to progress would have been for her to be her own self and have her power be a badass bitch on her own. I would have liked that. Anyway, without going too much into anything, we then see adult Mal and Alina. And like I said, it's not very sweet. She's clearly into him while he fucks around and then brags to her. He literally asks her to wish him luck as he goes and pursues a Grisha. I don't like that. It didn't sit well with me at all. And since this is a spoiler review, after doing that, what right does he think he have to call her basically, can't remember if it was in those words, but that's how my brain interpreted it. He called her a slut for having a thing for the Darkling. Up until that point, the Darkling had treated her with more respect than Mal had. Again, I'm not shipping her with the Darkling because clearly, knowing everything else that happens in this book, he was manipulating her, abusing her. And no, he wasn't the best. But in that moment, before we knew all of everything else, just like at that point, my heart was hoping he was a good guy, and he was just misunderstood, and he was not this manipulative asshole that he was, because he treated Alina with that bare minimum respect that Mal never gave her. Anyway, so Alina and Mal are part of the first army, which is the human army, non-Grisha army, and their unit gets attacked by the Volcra, which are creatures that exist in this fold, which is basically darkness itself. And it's very confusing because in the movie it made a lot more sense. In the TV show it made a lot more sense, but in the book when I was reading it, it wasn't just I couldn't see it, I couldn't imagine it. It just didn't work in my head. And so anyway, going back, and that is when they're being attacked, and I think Mal is being attacked, Alina responds by having her power show for the first time as the Sun Summoner, and that enters the Grisha and the Darkling, and she's revealed as the Sun Summoner and taken away to the little palace. I kind of enjoyed reading about their journey there because we got to learn a bit more about the Grisha and like see the Darkling use his power, and I liked the scene, and I really liked it when we were at the little palace before we found out everything the Darkling was actually trying to do. I liked her like discovering her power. I liked her feeling for the first time in her life in control of herself. For the first time in her life feeling hungry because she was no longer suppressing this magic and making herself ill as a result. She was free, she was herself, and I loved it. And I loved seeing her train with Boggins, I think. And Botkins and Bagra, and just become this amazing person. I will say Zoya was the most annoying person. I get it, like she was the Darkling's favorite, and the Darkling clearly favors Alina, and the way the Darkling definitely he used people in the way that he created this insecurity to keep them feeling ingratiated to him so they would do his bidding. I get that. Like as a villain he makes perfect sense, but when he was nice to Alina, I kept wishing he wasn't the villain. I kept wishing he wasn't a manipulating bastard, but he was, so no defending him. Anyway, before we found that out, though, we had this beautiful scene between him and Alina after she displayed her magic to the whole kingdom, and how he's always there to support her. That is what I was being attracted to before. Of course, all the bullshit happened. Anyway, so after the grand showing, Bagra tells Alina that the Darkling doesn't plan on destroying the fold. He plans on using her to expand it and, plans on controlling her power. Because up until this point, when they'd been talking about the amplifier, placating Alina, kind of making her feel safe, and then you start to see all the manipulation, how everything he'd done had been a form of manipulation. And it's a really good villain that Leigh Bardugo has written here, because it all connects, the way he made her feel safe, cared for, and how she was complacent, how we were complacent in reading it, and how he planned on putting the amplifier around her neck like a collar to control her light. It was very interesting. After Bagra reveals everything to Alina, she goes on the run, and when she is about to be caught by First Army, Mal kind of intercepts and saves her. Despite every bad thing I'm gonna say about Mal in the future and every bad thing I've already said, I will say he is a good friend and he does show undying loyalty to her despite everything. He is on her side. He's the one person who consistently is there for Alina, and I respect that. Anyway, so instead of running away like Bagra suggested, these two idiots, mainly Alina, decide to go after the stag. And when they find the stag, instead of killing it, Alina spares it. And in doing so, the Darkling kills it and traps her. They go to the fold, and again, this scene is very blurry in my head. It doesn't make the most sense. But they go to the fold, and Alina realizes that the stag's power does belong to her and not the Darkling, which I like the moment of realization, the self-actualization, where she acknowledges the stag gave her the power because she was the better person and spared its life. In doing so, she gained its trust and thus its power as an amplifier. And I like how she overpowers the Darkling and manages to escape. And it's just, I will say, even up until that scene, I was hoping the Darkling was redeemable, but when he literally just didn't give a shit about all his people and let so many die for his selfish goal of expanding the fold, it's just, I will admit, knowing some of the things about his past makes it more understandable, not excusable, but understandable why he acts the way he does. Sometimes knowing about a villain's past helps you understand them. Never excuse someone's bad actions, but understanding them helps get in their brain, and I enjoy that. Anyway, so that is basically most of what happens in this book. There is, I did like Genya in this book. I will say she was one of the very few characters I enjoyed. I loved her and Alina's friendship, but the betrayal. It's just, I never connected with these characters, so nothing hurt. Darkling's betrayal didn't hurt. Genya's betrayal didn't hurt. Nothing really hurt, so it wasn't that impactful. Speaking of Genya, I also wanted to talk about The Tailor, the novella book or whatever that's from her point of view about her past and all, her role in keeping kind of Alina contained. So we learn about Genya's past, and we learn about, I don't know if it's got spoilers for Ruin and Rising, but it's also alluded to in this book already. A relationship between Genya and the king is alluded here in this book, but it's not labeled. Warning ahead for sexual assault. It's not labeled rape until that Ruin and Rising. But in this scene, you really see how young Genya was when the king started to take advantage of her, and how the queen knew he was doing so. How instead of blaming her husband for raping a child, a literal child, she blamed Genya and took it out on Genya. And it's just seeing how tortured she was in that way. It's just really hard. And I know Genya excuses the Darkling's role in all of this, but that bastard put her in that position knowing very well that something like this could happen. He probably knew that this would happen, and he probably calculated that if the king did what he did to Genya, she would be more willing, more pliable for the Darkling to use. She'd feel more indebted to him. She'd be more controllable, more malleable. And I hate the Darkling for that. Not only does he manipulates everyone. And in the beginning of the book, all the great things about him, they kind of disintegrate when you look at all of this in reverse. Like, every action he's ever taken was in manipulation to get what he wanted. And understanding why he wanted what he wanted doesn't excuse what he did to get what he wanted. Anyway, so this really shows how just broken she was. She wasn't ruined. Anyway, how, like, the Darkling basically set everything up to manipulate her into manipulating Elena in a way. He might not have known Elena was going to exist, but he sure as hell had everything ready in case he needed Genya. He had it ready when he needed Genya to take down the king. And it is. Darkling's actions are sad. Anyway, so that is my book talk of Shadow and Bone, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. And tell me your thoughts about this book, and feel free to talk about the TV show. I will be doing a analysis of the TV show soon. I'm gonna rewatch it once finals week is over and graduation is over. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day.